Hey you guys, welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. So I am working on chopping up some vegetables because we are going to make a beef and vegetable soup for dinner. This is a Whole30 compliant meal because if you saw my last video, we are doing Whole30 in our house for the month of February. But this is a fantastic soup for any time. And it's cooled off significantly where I live. I'm sure that's true for a lot of you. But we went from mid 70s last week to it was about 50 degrees today, which is actually pretty nice for this time of year. But goodness, y'all, it feels chilly when it's 25 degrees cooler than it was last week. So we're going to have some nice soup for dinner. So I chopped up 2 onions. I chopped up about 4 ribs of celery. And now I'm chopping up, I guess I have 6 yellow potatoes. So I'm just chopping these into nice little bite-sized pieces. And these are all going to go into our pot when the time comes. And this is a soup that you can absolutely use tomatoes in. I am doing a substitution tonight. We are people who kind of have to be careful about our tomato consumption. Too much tomato and it starts being inflammatory in our family. And so we're going to do a substitution for the tomatoes. Once I get these all chopped up, we'll start adding things to our pot. I do want to mention we're going to take some shortcuts tonight and use part of our veg is going to be frozen veggies just because sometimes you don't want to have to chop all the veggies. And this is plenty to have to chop right here, right? So I will show you what those frozen veggies are when we get to it. Now that my veggies are chopped, we're going to get a little bit of oil and our ground beef into our pot. I am using quite a bit of ground beef here because I'm making a really big pot of soup. I think they're 1.33 pound packages, 1.34 pound packages of ground beef. So I'm using 2 of those today. You could use more beef, you could use less beef, and pad it with more veggies if you'd like. My beef is still partially frozen because I did not pull it out to thaw soon enough today. So it's going to take me a little bit longer, but that's not the end of the world. I just should have remembered sooner that I needed to pull this out. But we're going to get this all browned up, add a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, maybe some paprika or red chili pepper flakes. This is one of those things where you can really customize the flavor however you want it. So if you wanted it to be more of a taco soup, you could add taco seasoning, add some peppers to it. It's versatile. You do what you want. Now that the ground beef is in here and browning up, I added some salt. We're going to add some garlic powder, probably about a tablespoon. And I'm going to add some pepper. Then we're just going to get this beef all browned up. And I'm going to grab my other ingredients, the ones that I just didn't want to have to chop today. So let me grab those and I'll show you. So to make life just a little bit easier today, I am using frozen peas and carrots and frozen green beans because I just didn't feel like having to chop those things up myself. And honestly, if you've ever looked into it, frozen vegetables are actually supposed to be higher in nutrition than just store-bought fresh vegetables. They say because they're picked at the peak of freshness that they retain more nutrients than vegetables that have traveled for thousands of miles sometimes across the country from the time they're picked till when we get them. It can be a long time, and so I'm good with using some frozen veggies in my soup. But I'll meet you guys back here once the beef is all browned up and we will start assembling the soup. Our ground beef is all nice and browned up, and so I am going to go ahead and add my my onions and celery. I'm going to let these cook in here probably about 5 minutes. We're just looking to get them softened up a little bit before we add everything else. While the onions and celery are softening up, I thought it might be a good time to talk about the alternative we're going to use to tomatoes in the soup. You can have tomatoes. I would probably add a can of tomato paste, one of the small cans, and probably like a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes or diced tomatoes. We are being careful with our tomato consumption. And so what we're going to do is add canned pumpkin puree and a few tablespoons of vinegar. And this will help give us that texture that the tomatoes would have added. The vinegar will kind of give the tang and umami flavor that we'll be missing from the tomatoes. In the past, I've even added chopped up capers, just really, really fine, because they have that salty, tangy umami kind of thing going on. And so just an alternative if you still sort of want something that mimics tomatoes, but you need to stay away from them. I actually made this soup years ago for my family who eat tomatoes all the time, and they didn't even notice, didn't realize until I mentioned it to them. This is looking good. I don't know how well it comes through, but our onions have started to become translucent, so we are ready to add our other ingredients. We're going to add all of our chopped potatoes, add our frozen green beans. This is a 12-ounce bag of frozen green beans, a 12-ounce bag of peas and carrots, our can of pumpkin, Benny, that's not for you, buddy. My cat heard the can opener and thinks it's dinner time. Some broth. Traditionally, you would use beef broth here. I have a hard time finding beef broth with ingredients that I like and want to eat. And so, they just have some ingredients that aren't great. And the cleaner ones are pretty expensive. And so I just use my homemade chicken broth here. But if you'd rather use beef broth, that is definitely the more traditional way to go about things. So I do want to get my vinegar in here as well. 1, 2. And the vinegar is the kind of thing that I will adjust when I give it a taste test. Sometimes you might want a little bit more. Now we're just going to get this all stirred together, wait for it to come to a boil, and then let it simmer for probably about half an hour. I am going to add some Italian seasoning to this. That is my personal preference of herbs. I know some people do parsley, some people do other things. I'm adding about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning since this is a fairly large pot of soup. If you're new here, you might not have heard me say we like leftovers in our house. So we are intentionally making a big pot of soup that we can eat on for a while. So I am just waiting for this to come to a boil. Then we're going to let it simmer for about 30 minutes. Give it a taste test, see if it needs any more salt, pepper, garlic powder. It might need some more vinegar too. Sometimes it does. And we'll come back and we'll do that together. Our soup has finished simmering. Now we're going to give it a taste test and see if it needs any adjustments in its seasonings. So this is going to be really hot. It's really good, but it does need some more salt and some more vinegar. Or the other seasonings, I think, are really good. Vinegar. 1, 2. Stir that all in, let that salt dissolve, and we'll taste it again. Much better. Just needed that extra salt and vinegar. Grab a ladle for this. This looks so good, you guys. And it smells fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna bring it over and let you guys have a peek at what it looks like. Ooh. There we go. Make our nice beef and vegetable soup. Let's give this soup a try, shall we? Try and get a little bit of all the veggies and the beef. This is so good, you guys. I don't miss the tomatoes at all. The pumpkin and the carrots really do a nice job. Pumpkin and carrots. The pumpkin and vinegar do a really nice job. So I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.